Over the last 3 videos, I gave you everything. The framework. Anxiety isn't broken hardware. It's outdated software running on your nervous system. The protocol. How to use vivid mental simulation to feed your prediction system new experiential data until your body's fear response updates. And the neuroscience. Memory reconsolidation, predictive coding, the specific brain structures that make self-directed neuroplasticity possible. Some of you ran the protocol and felt the shift. The physical fear response started fading. The trigger that used to hijack your body started losing its charge. But some of you didn't. You did the simulations. You tried to feel it, and nothing changed, or it felt fake, or you couldn't even get the images to form, or you realized something deeper. The thing you thought you were afraid of isn't actually the thing your nervous system is reacting to. This video is for you. Today we're troubleshooting, not in a vague, try harder way, but with the same neuroscience precision we've used from the start. We're going to diagnose exactly why the protocol might not be working, how to calibrate it to your specific nervous system, and how to identify whether you're even targeting the right fear pattern. And I'm going to address something critical that most people talking about mental simulation never mention. What if you can't visualize at all? Because this method has to work for every brain, not just the ones with a vivid internal cinema. Let's get into it. If the protocol isn't working, it's failing at one of 5 specific points. Each has a different neuroscience-based fix. Failure mode 1, insufficient emotional activation. This is the most common failure. You're running the simulations, but they feel like daydreaming. No heart rate change, no muscle tension, no heat in your chest. Here's why this matters. Memory reconsolidation requires emotional arousal. The neurochemical cascade that makes fear memories label, that opens the editing window, involves norepinephrine and stress hormones. If your emotion system isn't activated, the reconsolidation window never opens. You're knocking on a door that stays locked. The fix: you need to increase the emotional charge. There are 3 ways to do this. First, make the scenario more extreme. You're probably being too realistic. Remember, the goal isn't accuracy. It's maximum prediction error. If you're imagining yourself being okay in a social situation, that's not contradictory enough. Imagine yourself commanding the room. Imagine people hanging on your words. Imagine the person who intimidates you being visibly impressed by you. Second, engage your body first. Before running the simulation, do 30 seconds of intense physical activity. Push-ups, sprints, even aggressive shadow boxing. Elevated heart rate primes your amygdala for engagement. Now run the simulation while your body is already activated. Third, use anger as an entry point. For many people, anger is more accessible than confidence. If you can't imagine feeling powerful, imagine feeling furious at the thing that controls you. Rage at the fear itself. That emotional intensity opens the same neurochemical door. Failure mode 2, wrong emotional direction. You're activating emotionally, but you're activating the wrong emotion. You start the simulation, and instead of embodying dominance, you relive the fear. Instead of rewriting the memory, you're reinforcing it. This is called sensitization, and it's the opposite of what you want. Here's the neuroscience. When you activate a fear memory during the reconsolidation window, but the new experience is consistent with the original prediction, meaning you feel the same helplessness, the memory reconsolidates stronger, not weaker. The fix: the simulation must end with you in a position of power. Every single time. If you find yourself getting pulled into the fear, stop. Reset. Start the scenario from the moment of dominance, not from the moment of threat. Think of it this way: you're not replaying the trauma. You're writing an alternative ending where you win. If you consistently get overwhelmed when trying to simulate the full threat, reduce the intensity of the threat in the scenario. Face a smaller version. Build evidence of dominance there first, then escalate. This is the same principle as progressive overload in weightlifting. You don't start with the heaviest weight. You start with what you can dominate and you build. Failure mode 3, insufficient repetition. You did it 5 times and nothing changed. That's not a failed protocol. That's an incomplete experiment. Here's why: your brain is Bayesian. It updates based on accumulated evidence weighed against existing priors. If you've had 15 years of anxiety reinforcement, 5 contradictory data points aren't enough to shift the probability distribution. The math is simple. More deeply grooved patterns require more contradictory evidence. Childhood phobias might shift in 30 to 50 repetitions. Social anxiety rooted in years of avoidance might need 100 to 200. Complex trauma responses tied to identity might need sustained daily practice over weeks. The fix: set a minimum commitment before evaluating. Do not assess whether it's working until you've completed at least 50 focused, emotionally engaged simulations. Track them. Date, number, subjective intensity on a 1 to 10 scale. This isn't faith, it's data collection. Failure mode 4, cognitive interference. This is when your analytical mind interrupts the simulation. You start imagining the scenario and a voice says, "This is stupid, this isn't real, this won't work." That voice is your prefrontal cortex running interference on an emotional process. And it's killing the simulation's effectiveness because it's pulling you out of the embodied experience and back into abstract cognition. Remember, your amygdala doesn't update from thoughts. It updates from felt experience. The moment you start analyzing the simulation instead of feeling it, you've switched brain regions and the amygdala disengages. The fix: treat the skeptical voice as irrelevant data. Not wrong, not right, just not useful during the simulation. The analysis happens before and after. During the simulation, your only job is to feel. One technique: before starting, give yourself explicit permission. Say out loud, "For the next 2 minutes, I'm running an experiment." Analysis happens afterward. This primes your prefrontal cortex to monitor rather than interrupt. Another technique: increase sensory detail until the analytical voice gets drowned out. Add sounds, textures, temperatures, smells to your simulation. The more sensory channels you engage, the harder it is for the prefrontal cortex to maintain its commentary. Failure mode 5, targeting the wrong pattern. This is the most important failure mode and the hardest to detect. You might be running perfect simulations with full emotional engagement, adequate repetitions, dominant resolution, and still see no change, because you're targeting the surface trigger instead of the root prediction. Your brain doesn't generate anxiety about specific situations. It generates anxiety about what those situations mean. Here's an example. You think you have social anxiety. You're afraid of parties. So you run simulations where you dominate social situations and nothing changes. Why? Because you're not actually afraid of parties. You're afraid of being seen as inadequate. Parties are just the context where that prediction activates. Your brain's real prediction isn't parties are dangerous. It's I will be exposed as insufficient, and I cannot survive the emotional consequences of that. And until you target that root prediction, no amount of simulating party success will create the right prediction error. How to find the root prediction? Ask yourself this sequence of questions about any trigger. What am I afraid will happen? Then, and if that happened, what would that mean about me? Then, and if that were true, what would be the consequence? Keep going until you hit something that feels like a body response, not just a thought. Example: I'm afraid of giving the presentation. That's the surface. If it goes badly, people will think I'm incompetent. Getting closer. If people think I'm incompetent, I'll lose respect and status. Closer. If I lose respect and status, I'm fundamentally alone and unable to survive. There it is. That last one probably created a physical sensation when you read it. Chest tightening, stomach dropping. That's the body telling you, this is the actual prediction being threatened. Now design your simulation around that root prediction. Don't simulate giving a great presentation. Simulate being fundamentally secure regardless of performance. Simulate failing publicly and being completely fine. Simulate people judging you and it having zero impact on your internal sense of worth. That's the prediction error your nervous system actually needs. This is why the protocol sometimes seems to not work. The simulation was technically perfect, but it was answering the wrong question. The surface trigger is the context. The root prediction is the target. Now let's talk about calibrating the simulation to your specific nervous system. There's a window of optimal intensity. Too low and the reconsolidation window doesn't open. Too high and you trigger a full stress response that prevents new learning. This is the Yerkes-Dodson principle applied to memory reconsolidation. Moderate to high arousal optimizes learning. Extreme arousal shuts it down. The too low signal, you feel nothing during the simulation. No physical sensations, no emotional charge. It's just imagination. This means the amygdala isn't engaged and no reconsolidation is occurring. What to do? Escalate the scenario. Make the threat more vivid. Make the dominance more extreme. Add physical movement. Stand up while simulating. Clench your fists. Breathe aggressively. The too high signal, you feel overwhelmed. You can't maintain the dominance narrative. The simulation collapses into reliving the fear. You dissociate or go numb. You feel worse afterward, not empowered. What to do? Reduce the intensity of the threat in the scenario. Start with a diluted version. Face a less threatening variant of the trigger. Build dominance evidence at lower intensity before escalating. The sweet spot, you feel activated, heart rate elevated, muscles engaged. There's a genuine emotional charge, but you can maintain the narrative. You can steer the simulation toward dominance. You feel a shift during or after the simulation, some combination of relief, power, or anger at the fear itself. This is where reconsolidation happens. A practical calibration tool. Rate your simulation intensity on a 1 to 10 scale after each one. 1 is daydreaming. 10 is full panic or dissociation. You want to consistently operate between 5 and 8. That's the reconsolidation window. If you're consistently below 5, escalate. Above 8, scale back. Track this alongside your repetition count. Over time, you'll notice that scenarios that started at 7 or 8 drift down to 3 or 4. That's the prediction updating. That's the pattern losing its charge. When a scenario drops below 4 consistently, it's time to escalate to a more challenging version. You've conquered that level. Move to the next. Everything I've described so far assumes you can create vivid mental images. For most people, that's the primary channel for running simulations. But roughly 2 to 4% of the population has a condition called aphantasia. They cannot voluntarily generate visual imagery. Their internal experience has no mental pictures, no mind's eye, and another 5 to 10% experience what's called anendophasia, the absence or near absence of an inner verbal monologue. No internal voice narrating thoughts. If you're in one or both of these groups, you might have watched the previous videos and thought, "This can't work for me. I can't see anything in my imagination." You're wrong, and here's why. The protocol doesn't actually require visualization. It doesn't require an inner monologue either. Those are delivery vehicles. They're the 2 highest bandwidth channels most people have for generating internal experience. But they're not the mechanism. The mechanism, as we established in the last video, requires exactly 3 things. 1. Activation of the threat network, opening the reconsolidation window. 2. Introduction of contradictory experiential data, the prediction error. 3. Sufficient emotional intensity and repetition for consolidation. These 3 requirements can be met through any sensory, motor, or cognitive channel that connects to the limbic system. And this is important. Anxiety itself proves this. If you have aphantasia and you still experience anxiety, your threat system is operating without visual imagery. It's running through body sensation, through felt sense, through what researchers call interoceptive and proprioceptive channels. Your anxiety doesn't need pictures to exist. Your healing doesn't need pictures either. This is actually a profound insight about the nature of anxiety itself. For people without imagery or inner speech, anxiety shows up as what it fundamentally is in every brain: a body state. Gut tightening, chest constriction, heart rate changes, muscle tension, and orientation of the whole system toward threat. Images and words are amplifiers. They're not the root signal. So here are the adapted channels, depending on what you're working with. If you have aphantasia, no visual imagery. You have at least 4 powerful alternative channels. Channel 1, verbal semantic simulation. If you have an inner monologue but no imagery, your primary simulation tool is emotionally charged present tense narration. Instead of seeing yourself dominating the situation, you narrate it to yourself in vivid, visceral language. Not, "I imagine being confident." That's abstract. Instead, "I walk into that room and every person turns to look at me. I feel the floor solid under my feet. My chest is open. My breathing is slow. The person who usually intimidates me looks up, and I hold their gaze until they look away first. I feel power radiating from my core." The language has to be sensory and body-based. Your inner monologue becomes the carrier for the experiential data your amygdala needs. Channel 2. Somatic and kinesthetic simulation. Your body is a simulation engine. You don't need to see dominance. You need to feel it. Stand up, plant your feet, expand your chest. Breathe slowly and deliberately. Let your arms hang at your sides, relaxed but not collapsed. Feel the physical state of someone who is completely unafraid. Now, while holding that physiology, think about the trigger. Let the threat concept enter your mind while your body maintains the dominance posture. Your nervous system cannot simultaneously hold a threat physiology and a dominance physiology. By physically forcing the counter state during threat activation, you create the prediction error at the body level directly. This may actually be more efficient than visualization for some people because you're bypassing the cognitive middleman and going straight to the somatic level where anxiety lives. Channel 3. Externalized visualization. If your internal theater is dark, move the theater outside. Draw the scenario. Write it out in vivid detail as a story. Create a physical representation using objects, a chair that represents the fear, a spot on the floor that represents your position of power. Literally, physically move through the scenario in your room. Watch yourself in a mirror while adopting powerful postures and verbally confronting the fear. The visual perception of yourself being powerful provides the same prediction error data that internal visualization provides, just through external perception instead of imagination. Channel 4. Auditory simulation. Many people without visual imagery can still generate sounds internally or respond powerfully to external audio. Record yourself narrating the dominant scenario in a commanding voice. Play it back while physically embodying the postures. Use music that reliably induces a state of power and aggressive determination as the emotional carrier during your practice. Music activates the amygdala, nucleus accumbens, brainstem, and motor circuits without requiring imagery or language processing. Rhythm entrains the nervous system through auditory motor coupling into whatever state the music carries. If you have an endophasia, no inner monologue. Without inner speech, your primary channels become somatic, kinesthetic, and environmental. Your body is both the tool and the target. The core adaptation. Instead of narrating or visualizing the confrontation, you physically enact it. Practice dominance states. Standing tall, breathing slow, chest open, hands unclenched. Do this first in safe environments until the body reliably enters the state. Then deploy that same physical state in progressively closer proximity to the actual feared stimulus or context. You're creating the prediction error through direct somatic experience. No narration needed. The proprioceptive and interoceptive feedback is the new data. Additional channels for people without inner speech. Write it down. Even without inner speech, you can write or type. The act of writing, "I am not afraid of this. I am the one in control," engages motor planning, visual perception of the written words, and semantic processing of externally perceived language. Writing becomes a prosthetic for inner speech. Use breath as your master control. Without inner speech or imagery, breath is your most powerful voluntary control mechanism over autonomic state. Extended exhales activate the vagal brake. Forceful rhythmic breathing activates sympathetic arousal on command. Box breathing demonstrates voluntary control over the system that fear hijacks. The meta message to your nervous system: I control you, not the other way around. If you have both no imagery and no inner speech, this is the smallest population, probably under 1 to 2%, but these are real people and this method needs to reach them. If both your highest bandwidth internal channels are offline, the protocol goes entirely somatic and action-based. This isn't a compromise. It may actually be the most direct route to the amygdala because you're skipping the cognitive middlemen entirely. The pure embodied protocol. Step 1. Direct somatic reprogramming. Physically practice dominant states in progressively threatening contexts. Start with practicing the physiology alone. Chest open, breath controlled, posture expanded, facial muscles relaxed. Get your body fluent in the counter state. Then introduce the feared stimulus at low intensity while maintaining dominance physiology. Increase proximity or intensity gradually, always maintaining the counter state. This leverages reciprocal inhibition. The nervous system cannot simultaneously be in a sympathetic fear state and a parasympathetic dominance state. By physically forcing the counter state during threat exposure, you create maximum prediction error. Step 2. Physical enactment. Act out confrontation scenarios with objects. Punch a pillow that represents the fear. Stand over it. Physically rehearse victory postures. This engages motor cortex, cerebellum, and basal ganglia, all of which feed directly into emotional learning circuits. Step 3. Sensory anchoring. Use classical conditioning below the level of language or imagery. Identify a specific physical action or sensation that reliably produces a calm or powerful state. Cold water on the face activates the dive reflex and parasympathetic response. Brief, intense exercise produces post-exertion calm. Specific pressure points or self-touch patterns can be conditioned. Practice this anchor repeatedly in safe contexts. Then deploy it while in proximity to the feared stimulus. Repetition consolidates the new pairing. This is pure Pavlovian reconditioning operating beneath language and imagery entirely. Step 4. Music as emotional carrier. Identify music that reliably induces power, confidence, or aggressive determination. Use it as the emotional carrier during exposure or physical confrontation rehearsal. Over time, the association between the feared context and the empowered state consolidates. The deeper point. Here's what the aphantasia and anendophasia adaptations reveal about this method's actual mechanism. The method isn't visualize dominance. The method is deliver experiential prediction errors to the threat system through whatever channels are available, with sufficient intensity and repetition to force reconsolidation. That's a hardware-level description. It works in any brain. Visualization and inner speech are high-bandwidth delivery vehicles for most people. But for those without them, direct somatic action, external sensory experience, physiological state manipulation, and environmental conditioning deliver the same data to the same destination. The destination is always the same. Amygdala updating, procedural memory reconsolidation, nervous system reprogramming. If you have anxiety, you have the channels needed to resolve it. Because whatever channel installed the fear is a channel that can overwrite it. Multi-channel stacking. Here's something that applies to everyone, whether you visualize or not. Using multiple channels simultaneously creates stronger prediction errors than any single channel alone. This is because each channel recruits different neural circuits that converge on the amygdala and emotional memory systems. More convergent input means a louder signal. A louder signal means a faster update. For someone who can visualize and has inner speech stack like this, see the scenario visually, narrate it internally, feel it in your body, adopt the physical posture, play powerful music, breathe aggressively, every channel reinforcing the same message. I am the dominant force in this situation. For someone with aphantasia, stack the available channels, narrate it verbally, feel it somatically, enact it physically, add the music, control the breath. For someone with both aphantasia and anendophasia, body posture, physical enactment, breath control, music, sensory anchoring, all simultaneously. The more channels you recruit, the more neural real estate is encoding the new data, and the faster the old prediction gets overwritten. If the protocol isn't working, you now know exactly how to adjust it. Adjust the intensity if you're not feeling anything or if you're getting overwhelmed. Adjust the emotional direction if you're reinforcing fear instead of overriding it. Adjust the repetition count if you're evaluating too early. Adjust for cognitive interference if your analytical mind is sabotaging the process. And most critically, dig past the surface trigger to the root prediction. That's what your nervous system is actually defending against. If you can't visualize, you now have 4 alternative channels. If you don't have inner speech, you have a direct somatic protocol. And if you have neither, you have the pure embodied version that may actually be the most efficient route to the amygdala. And if you have all the channels, stack them. The more neural pathways you recruit simultaneously, the stronger the signal, the faster the update. This is a precision tool. It operates at the neurobiological level beneath any specific cognitive modality. That's why it's universal. That's why it's permanent. With the right calibration, this works for any brain that can experience anxiety. Because if your brain can learn to be afraid, it can learn to stop. You are the programmer. Your channels are your tools. Run the experiment until the code updates.